back to TARTLEcast. You know that we love talking about physics data, so we got some really cool stuff going on here regarding the cosmic chasm.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about LHC, not AOC. I don't want to get into politics today. LHC is the Large Hadron Collider.
I don't even know. I can never even say it. Hadron?
Hadron. Somebody will correct us.
Hadron.
It's in Switzerland. We know. But this is really exciting. Something happened February 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And we have an article by, Pedro G. I want to say Ferrari, but...
Ferraria.
Yeah, I love his, he has a great name. He's an astrophysicist at the University of Oxford, which we're going to be having an astrophysicist astronomer.
Well, we're going to have the world's top theoretical physicist join us actually on TARTLE.
This Friday.
Avi Loeb.
So it should be a few episodes after this one. So if you're listening to this one, you'll have to wait a couple weeks and then you'll have it on there. It'll be awesome.
Yeah, be patient.
Yeah, he also wrote a book.
Called Extraterrestrial.
Yeah, so this is going to be fun, guys.
Yeah.
Because this is a guy that knows what he's talking about.
Yeah,
and it's
nice.
Proven
It's
with
better
his long list of Harvard
credentials. Much better than you and I.
Yeah, and then his those scientific societies and I mean the list goes on and on.
You and I useless.
Yeah,
don't listen to us.
So one afternoon in February 2016, something happened.
What happened?
Albert Einstein, over 100 years ago, predicted these gravitational waves or ripples in space. So scientists unveiled the first definitive evidence of this existence.
Do you know what I think is kind of funny about this?
What?
And I'll tell you. I love looking at word etymology. You know that too. If you take the galactic, if you take the Hebrew word for galaxy, it's galaxia, and the root word gal, G-A-L, means wave. How is it that such an old language knew to look at the stars and they thought of the word wave when
I guarantee
describing
you,
a galaxy?
Albert Einstein was Jewish, so I guarantee you
he's like, yeah, probably something here.
Let me see. Let me see what that...
Isn't that interesting, though?
That is interesting. I've watched him multiple times, and it's so interesting when you have somebody that brilliant. You know, he was if we want to call him like the Elon Musk of that time.
Yeah.
You know, and he was wrong. People don't realize that he was wrong in certain things.
Can't be right on everything.
Yeah, you can't be right. But people put people into that category.
Yeah.
Where they put him as like, you can do no wrong. Remember when Michael Jackson was so like almost like a god and people were fainting?
Do no wrong.
Yeah, and then next thing you know, the house of cards always fall. But something happened in 2012 too. That the Higgs, and I don't know how to pronounce this word either. The boson.
Yeah, the Higgs boson. So apparently, what they would call a God particle, right? So that's what they found in 2012. So that was that step.
Yeah, and it was this was the subatomic world. This is where they're starting to get into. 1950s we stayed the atomic side of things. Now we're getting into, like you said, the God particle, which is this whole idea of where did creation begin?
Yeah, or even to the fact that, are there things smaller than an atom? Yeah. And I bet you they can keep going smaller and smaller. But the thing is, we always want to find, they're like trying to be deductive, like what's the base? And let's study the base and then work our way back up. But I think it just goes smaller and smaller and smaller.
It's fractal.
That's what we're going to find out. As your technology improves, it gets smaller and smaller and larger and larger.
Well, telescopes are that way too.
Yeah.
I was watching a physicist the other day, and he said you can if you go up to the sky and you put your thumb up and then you look at your thumbnail, that's 100 million galaxies.
I know, it's ridiculous.
So, I mean, think about that. How big is space?
And then they're saying that there's a multiverse. I have an infinite amount of universes and an infinite amount of dimensions, and I have billions of galaxies within a universe. Nah.
And there's layers of more of that, the same, but then not just the same, but different.
Yeah, no thanks.
Because they've proven, and this is what this article talks about is fundamental physics is on a roll, that we're getting enough data to come in to verify it. So shout out to physicists, and the work that they're doing. But it's so crazy that there's another Alex. There's multiple Alexes and multiple universes, and they're totally different than who you are now.
I'm gonna have to go kill them all. I can't have that. I can't have that competition.
I love that. But this is what I wanted to get into, and I wanted to the data. So we have theories that Albert Einstein invented, and then we go through and we see, oh, okay, here it is, 2016.
Yeah,
and 100 years later, and now all of a sudden we have data or proof that the theory is right. And then they were able to put the two, because I was reading about this, they had these two measurements, wave measurements, and how they could measure the ripple.
Yeah,
I think they had one in Washington State, and then they had one in I forgot where the other place.
It reminds me of when they're using the thing to check for earthquakes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's like, okay, did the ripple go this way? Oh, and it went this way. Okay, great.
Now it was something like that. But this is what I want people to understand is, as we grow as a society, our data grows. And it's growing at a chart that is, I mean, if you look at the amount of data usage that we have as humans, I mean, the growth of it with the IoT devices and everything else that we're going through, and a lot of people don't realize the commercial use.
What does it tell you? So essentially, if everything was an Albert Einstein like 10 years ago, everything, all of our new technology, it's phased out. We've learned new stuff. New theories have come in, new data, new observations. We look at the universe, there's a 6-to-1 ratio of dark matter to actual physical matter you can see. Hello? We're only focusing on that small portion of the entire universe that we're currently living in. It takes more data to analyze the stuff you can't see. That's going to take time. But through that time, through that observation, through that increase in data, that affords us more analysis, and through that analysis, we can come to new conclusions about these things.
So do you think that is the issue, the analysis of data?
Well, analysis also has a lot of biases. So what happens when you collect a lot of data? A guy's been sitting at his Princeton job for 40 years. He's been tenured. And somebody comes to him, puts on his desk, and like, hey, your theories, they don't line up. This guy's written like 25 white papers. He's been cited on this so many times, and you're coming in here to tell him that there's actually no weight to his papers. That means his entire career as a scientist is essentially for naught. So think about how conservative all the scientists end up acting. They all fall into line with one another. They actually don't want to take the data that is actually showing them that fundamentally what you're saying can't be true. But the thing is, they're all falling into that hypothetical conservative line and pushing away all the other data, the outliers that are telling them, your theory's wrong. It's completely wrong. Look what else is going on here. Look what you're missing. Look what you're not learning. Why? Because they're worried about their reputation. They're worried about losing the job. And they're worried that all the work I put in, their ego is screaming at them to say, this was yours. Don't let them take it from you. This happens every single day.
And so when we look at this data collection and data analysis, this is the concern, and I know you just brought up the concern, but the big thing that I'm seeing is, if we're going to wait till someone dies before we say, well, they weren't, that amount of time that data set, it's set on a shelf, it's set in a computer, it's set on a desk, and then, that professor dies. And then now, another person comes out and says, well, no, actually, it wasn't this, it was this.
That's generally what happens.
So these data sets that higher education is holding on to, what do you think, how could, because here's what I'm trying to get to. How could TARTLE help universities be more transparent?
They could upload their data sets into TARTLE, and they can make them available for purchase, rather than say, I'm going to give it to the head chair of the department and have him decide if it gets released. Why would one centralized authoritative figure who could possibly have an ego completely stonewall your entire operation and all your work, which probably has a lot of weight to it, when you can just put it up on TARTLE and share it with the entire world? Why wouldn't you want to take your Rubin observatory data down in Chile or wherever it might be, in that brand new telescope that's putting all that information to the cloud? Why wouldn't you want to open up the availability of that information to go out there? Why wouldn't you want to fund your telescope through your data? Why beg the governments to give you funding? Sell that data. Go for it. Share it. Open it up. That's what you want to do. And then you don't have to worry if somebody okays it. Take the observation you have and send it out there and let the world analyze it. Not one person say, nah, that doesn't fit into my lens. I'm not letting that go.
So do you think, because they are so conservative, do you think that peer-to-peer with TARTLE, so if you could be anonymous, which you are, I mean, totally anonymous, that opens up a whole nother...
Yeah, think about all the scientists like, oh, I want to release this. I'd be psyched if people started putting UFO photos on TARTLE. I'd be all jacked up. Oh,
yeah, of course, yeah. Yeah, no, that would be exciting, but we'll need to make a packet for that.
This eradicates barriers for sharing truth. It just destroys it. It opens up the floodgates for people to share information. If you'd say that, oh, they've already done that on social media. No, they haven't. No truthful, knowledgeable information has been shared on Facebook or anything like that.
No, because everybody's trying to be better than.
And then when you go to Wikipedia, it's already been manipulated by the person writing the article.
Mm-hmm.
I want the source information. Let us all come to our conclusion together.
But let's say you have a science society and they want to anonymously poll their scientist.
Go for it.
Yeah, and then they're sure that it's totally anonymous. There's absolutely no way that we can find out that Dr. So-and-so, said no on this or disagreed on this.
Yeah.
I think that anonymity would be huge in higher education, because then it allows an honest dialogue with these theories. Now we're not waiting 100 years when, Albert Einstein was already dead, which I know they were waiting on the technology, which I get that part, but still it's like
were they? Yeah. That's our 71 Blackbird. Were they really waiting on the technology, or some guys that we can't release this right now?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a whole, and I was listening to a mathematician the other day, and he was talking about this. He's like, he brought up that they were, he got ostracized, and he brought out that they were jacking up the numbers here in the United States. The economists were jacking up the numbers here in the United States for the GDP.
I don't doubt it.
And so they had found out some mathematical. They had found out some mathematical formula where they could say that the GDP was like 0.000 something better, and then that in turn, basically what it netted was like over 5 years they were going to get like a couple $1 trillion.
Let me ask you.
The government would get more money.
Did they actually go to every single business and ask them what their output was?
Well, yeah, exactly.
This is my point. No, they have to theorize, summarize, mean, medians, and mode, and let's find out what we can do and put this together and say,
but the amount of effort that went into screwing over the American people,
for a fraction of the effort, they could have gone to TARTLE and done it truthfully.
Is interesting to me. It's like, yeah, you're sitting here saying that you're an economist.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a society that is a not-for-profit. You're sitting there saying that you're this whole society is supposed to be for the betterment of mankind, and then you're turning around and all getting together and making a decision to do fraud against the American people so that you can better the 1%.
Why? Because we like how our theory works. This is one of the fundamental things I didn't like about finance. Everybody has a theory about how it all works. And I would look at these professors teaching it in these large classrooms, and I'd say, are you rich? Did it work for you? No? Why are you teaching it to me then? Well, because everybody uses it. So because everybody's using a theory that effectively doesn't work, because if it did, they'd all be making money and not losing it.
Well, it gets even worse, because if 80-90% of our trading is done through machine learning,
yeah,
then if we're programming all the machines to do candlestick patterns,
then they're like, oh, it works.
Well, then it's a bias, yeah.
Well, the same thing happens here with physics and these scientists. Self-fulfilling prophecies. No, let's nix that away. And once you've nixed away all the outlier data, look where we are. Oh, yeah, we've normalized the hell out of that curve. This looks great. My papers are good. I'm getting funding next year, guaranteed. We all are. But the other guys that are doing the real work, being truthful, really observing, they're not going to get no funding. They've been pushed to the side. They've been silenced. Their papers will never get cited. That's what happens. It's crap. It's so political. It's ridiculous. You got to get rid of all that stuff. When you do that, you hinder knowledge, you hinder our evolution, you slow humankind down. All these other advances, you're limiting that because of like that egotistical, political, centralized regime that is happening around data. One person gets to look at all the observations and say that observation can be released. The rest of you, no. That is completely absurd. What if I wrote an entire book? I mean, the CIA likes doing this. What if I wrote an entire book and I handed it to a central authority and they blacked out everything in there and they say, okay, this is what you can sell. And all I'm left with is 2 paragraphs out of 200 pages. How would that make you feel? You'd be crushed. Absolutely crushed. You'd be demoralized. That's not that. What that happening there is the same thing that happens in so many other places where people are trying to get their funding. Higher education groups come together, conservative scientific theory. It's not proof, scientific theory. And just like them saying, oh, those observations don't matter. Oh, that data is not legit. It's not for you to decide. It was observed. It happened. It was recorded. That's for other people to share to whoever they want to share, not for you to prevent them from sharing it. Why? Because it also has the college's name on it. Oh, I don't think Harvard should send something out that, that seems a little off the scales here. But you work for Harvard. I don't think this is a good. Maybe it's not best for your career and reputation.
Well, I mean, you're seeing that. We're seeing that now with data that's coming from people that have been incarcerated here in the United States.
Sure.
So it even gets worse because now it gets political. So now we know that, there's a high percentage of African Americans that were on like trumped up drug charges, with like they had some marijuana on them, which is, I mean, we just legalized it here in New Mexico, but who cares? But they're in prison for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. You know what I mean? And so you release all of those people. Now you have a whole different ball game into what it looks like.
Could you imagine if we had?
But you see what the data? Yeah. But the data proved that we have, because it's falsified. I mean, how many times are we coming? We live in a nice neighborhood. How many times are the cops coming around here? Saying, "Hey, buddy, come here a second." Yeah. I've never been questioned. Ever. Where a cop car pulls next up to me and says, "Hey, I need to talk to you."
Ever.
Where that's constantly happening in African American neighborhoods.
Absolutely.
And we're going through this issue right now. With that,
well, even in the very Spanish neighborhoods here,
yeah, exactly, the North Valley and
total
stuff like that,
profiling, 100%. And it's like, well, I mean,
where the odds of this rich kid over here,
the data's wrong,
having a backpack full of weed
is much higher. Gosh,
it's so funny. But I mean, this is a prime example of when you take gatekeepers and put them in charge of data.
Yeah, it's gatekeepers. Data should not have these gatekeepers. If somebody observes something, that is their observation. It's their record of their life, of their scientific event, of some medical thing. That is their record. They went through it.
But that's where we get into data ownership.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Because now Harvard's feeling like
we own this data.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, well, actually, you don't. Harvard.
Actually, the scientists that did all that work for you and those researchers and the assistants that you're getting free labor off of.
No,
I never understood that. The peeps they've already graduated.
Look at all the interns and everything else.
They've already
gone.
They've already graduated.
Places of labor. All these universities are labor.
Why are they
washes.
working for free?
Yeah.
For the university.
I would tee up? You know what I would tee up to them, to these universities, Harvard and everybody? Start sharing your research through TARTLE. Start acquiring research through TARTLE. Support people that need to be supported. Don't support regimes. Okay?
Well, what if you are a regime?
Well, that's what I'm telling them to take the turn of the tide.
To decentralize.
Okay?
Yeah.
Decentralize what's going on here. If Harvard wants to be forward thinking, then wake up to what's happening right in front of you. Take that turn. That's all I got to say.
I love it. So
don't ride a different wave.
Not the money train.
Get off the money train. Get on the cosmic gravitational wave. Ride that one.
That's the cosmic. Yeah. We need to make sure that. There's a shout out to all the scientists, physicists, those that are out there. I'm really excited about what we're doing globally. You can see with the pandemic and the vaccines and stuff like that. When we get together and we have unity,
I love that.
And we don't look at borders. It's amazing what we can accomplish and how quickly we accomplished. I mean, I think right now, the United States is leading in vaccination
It's amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, just alone, not just the United States, but these other countries and scientists, like we had some, French scientists and South American scientists and a couple Russian scientists that were just really, really involved in this process. What are the scientists, because I don't want to butcher it, the ones that work with viruses and stuff?
Epidemiologists?
Yes, epidemiologists. I mean, shout out to those guys. I mean, there was even some guys from China that were not the Wuhan lab, but there was even some guys from China that got involved.
I want to make sure I actually did that correct.
I think you're 100% right. I'm almost positive you
isn't study, analysis, distribution patterns, and determinants of health and disease conditions defined by populations. Yeah, so the scientists coming together to track the spread of the disease, all that other stuff.
So we'll close out on this. Hopefully we can do the same for climate stability.
Yeah, hopefully we can do the same for scientific research of the cosmos.
Yes.
Hopefully we can reverse that 6-to-1 ratio.
That would be exciting.
So yeah.